Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Alva, and I have the honor and the pleasure to have Kevin Walton with me right now, who is a transformational specialist. He's also a soul guide, and he is the founder of Creatorhood, which I have taken 2 of his trainings, and it's transformed my life. And he also happens to be in Luke Perry's show, Sisters. And he's an amazing musician too, that writes his own music. And I mean, I just can't spend all the hour, talking about your resume. He's also an awesome father and just a real big inspiration in my life. And I have learned from so many different teachers over the gazillion years that I've been practicing. And I have to say, Kevin, you are the man, you are it. And he encompasses so many different benefits to the person, from an embodiment level, spiritual level, thought, neuroscience, lifestyle, really living in all the areas of your life. What his work does is it covers so many things that you don't need to do so many things. You could just come to Creatorhood. And I am really grateful to have asked you to speak on this topic that I really feel you are an expert at, which is really the true meaning, the truth of love. And so without any further ado, Kevin, I would love for you to share with us your definition of love, the truth definition of love. And so everybody take a seat and just pay attention here.
So, yeah, I love this topic. We can dive in all day. So the definition that I use for love is the absolute acceptance of everything, right? So it's the ability to recognize everything in connection as the one. And I break that down in every iteration. So from understanding how to accept yourself, understanding how energy works in terms of rates of vibration and resonance to appear a certain way, all of that is founded in this sustainable force of love, which is that binding agent that sees everything integrated as one. So without love, energy wouldn't even know how to pulsate in the same rate of vibration, right? In which it could form any material presentation. The fact that we can be here being energy and be seen and everything vibrate at a rate where you can actually visualize it, it's love that allows energy to mold into an expression of itself. And so that also being stated, the more we accept ourselves, meaning we live from that state of love, the more we access greater capacities in us. And that's what love is designed to do. If it's the acceptance of everything, that means it has the ability to honor and accept where we are, while also demanding us live in the more of us, right? In that greater capacity of self. Because if we can accept where we are, and we're living from love, we would have to accept that we're still more than that and be willing to go from that.
So love and creativity go hand in hand.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I think that's interesting when we feel that we're not growing in a relationship, we're not creating anymore something new.
Yep.
Love really does demand a lot of growth. You know how sometimes we avoid saying something to our partner because we don't want to hurt them, or maybe we don't care enough, and how when people really care about you, they'll speak up and say something, and then you grow. And so, because sometimes people say, I love you so much that I'm just not going to let that slide. Like, I have to tell you, or else I could just ignore you and never call you again. Can you speak into that, the whole creativity and love? And
yeah, what I always say is creativity flows out of, it's like the natural thing, right? Everything is this creative energy. So it flows unobstructed the more vulnerable we are. The more accepting we are of ourselves, the more vulnerable we're willing to be. That's also why so much creativity flows out of emotional states. Like if someone's feeling down, it's like all this poetry I'm gonna write, or music, right? It comes out of these certain feelings because there's this vulnerability that's necessary to let creativity flow. The thing though with that is for it to be sustainable, right? The creative flow to happen on the regular, that doesn't always have to be associated with one emotion or the other, is that capacity of love, because love is always going to be that energy that demands we step into the more that we are. And so when it comes to being in connection with another, the most authentic thing to do is, to honor how you feel, speak to that in a container that also offers insight to see everyone grow and thrive. Because
Mm.
ultimately that's what everyone wants, to feel their capacity to be their fullest authentic expression. So love is that thing that is inside of everyone and is in everything, asking it to continue to shine and flow in its fullest expression of creative, beingness and
And so
existence.
then for me, I feel love. I had a lot of shame. I had a first sexual trauma experience that was I was ashamed that I was so young and I was raised Catholic. And so somehow I feel that the shame that I held and the guilt,
Mm-hmm.
the judgment, I feel as though those made it hard for me to really experience this energy you're talking about.
Yeah, because when
And
you,
vulnerable
whenever,
because I was hiding.
yeah, exactly. Because whenever you have a judgment about yourself, that's what you're doing. You're literally taking an aspect of your experience and wanting to shun it away, lock it away in a door. And it's like you almost want to fragment yourself, because you think if this is something that has to be acknowledged, that means that that's what you are, as opposed to being more of it and just seeing this as one aspect of life that you can acknowledge was a valid experience that you went through, and then can use it for something greater, as opposed to using it as a way to define, this is why I'm less. And so when we're playing it out that way, it's like in direct contradiction of love, where it's like somehow there's something about me that the most sustainable force in existence wouldn't ever accept or embrace. And so I'm not going to accept and embrace it. And then you end up creating those pockets of shadow, and those things will dictate fear-based choices when we're not conscious of them, until we realize we have to face them. And then every time we're willing to acknowledge these feelings and feel them and accept them, we end up bringing ourselves back to integration, or back to that whole state, which is what love always is, and how it can expand through us, flow through us. So it's like, it's not just the idea of, like, being loving yourself isn't just the idea of, pampering yourself, because you could pamper yourself out of avoidance. You know what I mean?
Trust me, I've done it. It doesn't work.
Right. Like if we're talking about living from self-love, that means living from greater self-acceptance, the willingness to honor
Powerful.
every aspect of you in the journey.
Living from greater self-acceptance.
Self-acceptance.
So like
Yeah,
greater self-acceptance.
exactly. That's truly living from a loving space, because then from there, the next loving thing to do is to tap into more of your gifts to contribute more to the world from that wholeness.
Something else that I'm becoming aware as you spoke, that it is just an experience that you had when you were a child, or whatever experiences we've had when we were children, that we somehow then identify, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, I'm worthless. And so to love ourselves would then mean I just look at life as experiences that I'm going through, and all of them are, as you say, a sacred opportunity, as you teach us in Creatorhood. And so what I'm getting is to not identify and say that's what you are. That's an experience that you're having that's serving you to become something more.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Experience only shows up as a service for greater self-awareness. That's all it is. It's never, I'm going to show it to ruin your life or ruin your day. It's, if this is what I'm experiencing, something about this is offering me something in relation to me being my fullest authentic expression. Even if that's knowing how to feel certain feelings and be resilient enough through those feelings to offer more to the world, because you would like to see a world where this experience isn't necessary. And that's different than saying you created it, so deal with it. So, because, people will be like, well, why would I create that? When you realize that experience is always an offering and an opportunity, a really sacred one is, and I use that word specifically for that reason, that it's not just an offering of like, and here's some shit to deal with. There is purpose to it, always. And when we don't have the awareness, or we're not in the awareness rather, because it's always there, but if we're not in the awareness of knowing how to identify that in the moment, then we'll just define it in whatever way makes sense to us and experience. And that's where all these concepts of shadow and traumas and things come from. It's because all that energy, the feeling, the emotion, the content doesn't have anywhere to go when you don't know how to direct it. And so then you just wear it, and you just think like, this is just how I am. This is just what it is. I do this because this happened to me. And that's not true. but that's what we'll say if that's the space of awareness we're in,
Mm.
rather than, well, this happened to me. This is how it felt. I had to work through that feeling. And through that, I now realize, right, that I'm capable of X, Y, and Z. And I also feel inspired to do this so that we can see the world function like this. And that's really what all experience is for in every respect, one way or another. But it doesn't mean it's simple when you break it down, but it doesn't mean it's always easy. Right? When you got to deal with emotions and things come up, it can be a difficult process sometimes, but it still rings true.
It seems as though there's a lot of rampant conditional love and love that is really not truly love out there in the world, and codependent love, which I know I got a PhD in. And now I am definitely in an interdependent awareness of love that is true love, which is love don't give a shit, quote Kevin Walton, that love is the acceptance of all. And so basically what that tells us is that we aren't with someone trying to change them so that we can love them more.
Exactly.
We are just accepting our partners and ourselves, and learning and growing from whatever arises in the experience we're having, that we're really a lot creating.
Yes, that you're creating. Yeah, and exactly that. It's, I love you where we are, and there's still more of us to play with. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like I accept that, and the thing is, acceptance doesn't mean settling. And there's really just one form, like one, love is maximal, it's absolute, right? It's just love. There's no conditional love, codependent love. All of that is fear-based behavior, right? From a perspective. And fear-based behavior just means you believe yourself to be separate, and you believe yourself to be less than your divine existence. So you behave in a way that comes from this idea that there's separation, lack, and opposition, right? I'm separate from something, therefore I lack something. And not only do I lack, that which I'm separate from is against me. And that's how like fear-based behaviors develop. When you start realizing that, and you realize love is maximal and absolute, then you start to identify clearly, oh, okay, I was living in codependency because I didn't feel safe or significant within my own beingness. That's not love. That's just showing you where you can go to start tapping into love, which is, okay, so then I must take the time to get in connection with myself, to do that, which is a loving act, to then live from a greater space of love, where now I can be in connection with another and recognize my sovereignty, their sovereignty, and us explore together. That I can, and that's, I just had a conversation yesterday with a friend about like not being with someone for potential, right? Because that's not love. Like, love is, I'm with you because I'm rocking with you, and we have so much that we're capable of, and we're going to do it. So it's never a settling thing. But if you get in thinking that, well, I'll love you when, or if you just had this thing change, or right, none of that's not how love operates, not how it talks. And it really, you know, when I say that quote, love does not give a shit, it just loves. Nothing is truer. It doesn't have, there's nothing to hold on to. There's not a rush order. There's not, it's like, here's where we are. Okay. And here's where we can go from here. Okay.
So right? It's a very alive. So when married couples or couples in a partnership that aren't married, that they say like it's lifeless. I feel like we're cellmates instead of soulmates.
Right.
That would be an opportunity, looking at it as an opportunity, according to Creatorhood. Can you share how to navigate that? Because so many people, if they're a living average, they're like, meh, I'm not that excited about my marriage. You know, I'm not that excited about my job. It's not just relationships, but I feel a lot in the world, there's a lot of that fear-based loving.
Absolutely. Because it's just fear-based. It's like fear-based. It's not, like I said, it's not even loving. People think it's loving.
Settling.
It's not, it's like, it's just because it's the act of settling.
Or people are in a relationship because they're scared of not being with anyone or anything different.
Exactly.
Which I definitely feel I was a part of. And even now with Creatorhood, what I learned, which I want to, you know, I've studied so many things, and for whatever, I mean, it's, you just deliver it very concisely, but I think it's also your vibration massively, that just anything you say, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to listen, you know, just like, put it in there, you know. The clarity, you know, this, you're just very clear about what you're sharing. Like, it seems as though I can trust you. And I know that I'm looking at you, seeing myself. You know,
Exactly.
that's something else that I feel I would love for you to touch on. When somebody says, oh my God, I met this guy. We're
Mhm.
so connected. We're twin flames, you know? And then we make up all these stories,
Right.
and then we want to like embellish it more than whatever it really, you're like, you just met that person for 5 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
You don't really know. That takes time, you know? How much we project. And then the poor guy is just like,
Yeah, it's well, and that goes to something really important, right? We're you know, in Creative we talk about all the time that life isn't just the way it is; it's what we say and feel it is, and we're always doing that, always defining it, writing the story. We make it what it is, and because we often look at feeling what we feel through a certain lens. So, like being able to be around someone and feel certain things, knowing how to navigate your feelings is the key, because you can take that and make it what it is. And this, I just had this conversation in my divine embodiment masterclass where I was mentioning in the relationship aspect, when it comes to masculine and feminine energy, you know, if you're masculine led or feminine led, when you come across the energy of the polar opposite of attraction, right, there's a natural invigoration and draw to that. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be that person. It just means you're tapping into that energy within you in this person's presence, because they reflect something that reveals that within. When you understand that and you're also clear about your life, you know what to do with that energy. So if I'm a man and I'm clear on my partner, my values, my standards, then I feel that I'm going to take that energy and I would go home to my partner, with it, and go, I'm going to use this and we'll, liven things up. If I'm unclear, then I'll be in that space of, well, what does that mean? Do I like this person? Maybe I have to be with them because my relationship's going to, run dry. And you start having all this, this stuff happen. And that's really what the key is for everyone. When relationships fade, when things get monotonous, when stuff gets monotone, there is a lack of clear internal clarity,
mm-hmm.
right? Internal clarity of principle, of standard, of value, of role responsibility. And so we end up just kind of drifting into these patterns because we don't have a measurable reference point that goes, well, what is my standard for romantic relationships? My standard is this. Okay, if that's my standard, am I living that as an example? If I'm not, what must I start to do to live that example? Because then if I'm living the example, I'll bring that to the relationship. I bring a relationship, the energy changes. And
So if
because,
you're like at work and you see a coworker, some people will say, well, the universe brought us together and my marriage is not really doing well. Like we could,
yeah,
so that's basically, we're creating that to kind
yes,
of not take responsibility that we're powerful creators. This is what I
correct.
love about this program is you can't escape yourself. It's really about confronting all you're responsible for and so much more than and so when I started Creatorhood, which is I think about 3 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
um, I literally wanted to move to another apartment, and especially my daughter. And I just kind of felt that I outgrew it.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have to because I was happy there. I was comfortable. And so it's kind of like an extra thing that I have to go look for a place, but then I thought, well, I deserve it. But then Kevin was like, well, Michelle, that's victim mentality. You deserve it. You decide it, woman. And then I was like, what? I decide to move. And so I made a lot of my I decide, and the Creatorhood program took on. And as I was feeling more empowered within myself, you see, when it comes to serving people, I'll be that. But when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to me, my home, my bedroom, my own, that's been like the wounded healer. Definitely, I can relate to that title. But I don't wish to live anymore. I decide to break out of that, and that I decide to live beachfront, Key Biscayne. And I manifested this amazing apartment, and almost to the point where, oh my God, I cry sometimes because wow, but then people are like, well, weren't you working with Kevin on that? Like Creatorhood, hello, like, of course you're going to manifest an amazing part, you're a powerful woman. So it's really interesting how there's something with that about love, accepting and acceptance. And I've definitely accepted more myself. And people might be watching this like, Michelle, you're such a loving person. Like, but I've been so hard on myself that I didn't even realize how much I was getting in the way of my own acceptance in a different way And so I'm really grateful for your program, Kevin. I can't speak enough about it, how, and even the sessions that I've had one-on-one with you, it really is effortless, a way that you can see, like, pierce right through and get to the root in people. And so anyone listening here, I highly recommend clicking down below to the links for Kevin's programs. Join the Creatorhood community, the Light Beings community. And there's tons of videos on Instagram at his Instagram, Source Radiance, at Source Radiance. And I just love having you on, Kevin, because I really feel the world benefits so much from the truth and remembering how powerful we are. And so I really want to thank you for reminding me that I am a powerful creator.
Absolutely. And to share something you mentioned, I really appreciate that. Knowing that, like, when you have that moment of I deserve this, it's such an important dynamic, and we want to catch that. So I really wanted to make sure we touch on that. It's when we realize we find ourselves saying, like, well, I want this because I deserve it. It's okay if that's the space you're in, because you know how this works, right? It's cool. If that's where you're coming from, first of all, accept that it's okay that you feel that way. And then here's what's actually happening so that we know where to build from. And because we often think it's about just visualizing or just the words, but it's always the feeling underneath it, right? Because we talk based on identity and feeling. So when we're in a mode of, well, I deserve this, if we feel like we have to say that, it's coming from a place where we haven't been experiencing it.
I was feeling sorry for myself because I work, and I'm so much about service, but it was imbalanced. And honestly, I'm still working on this, and I'm not ashamed of it. And that's something more I want to share. How many old wounded things are coming up in me, and how a part of me has been so working hard at being the best mom and the best healing guide and counseling, coaching, everything, to the point where my little inner child is like, dude, you're boring. Like, when are you going to play with me? I thought we were dancing more and doing sillier things. Like,
and to that, it's like, because we have that mentality of like being the best. And I would say things like that all the time too, for a while. And I realized the thing that we're really after. What do you say?
It's exhausting. I'm tired.
It is, right? It's
I'm tired of myself.
Because it isn't the truth. Like, the truth is that we want to be the most authentic we could possibly be. Because the most authentic means we're really giving all that, like, we're really like tapping into the most of us to contribute the most of us, and knowing when to do what. Because if I'm being authentic, then I know when to play and have fun, and I know when to dig in and go like get tough with it. I know how to be gentle with it. When you're authentic, you really get the most out of you, out of life, and contribute the most to you and to life. And that's the important dynamic. So when we're going through life, it's like you keep getting clear about what it is you actually want. And instead of it being like, I deserve it, it's just, this is what the fuck it is now. Like, I just decided, like, I'm now going to live in this place, and I'm really excited about it. It doesn't have to be about, because, when we find ourselves going, I don't deserve this, I deserve that. It's like, no, I've been experiencing this, and now this is what the fuck it is now. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is where I'm going, and I'll work through anything that comes up along the way, but I'm just clear. And that ability to realize that that's you utilizing the power that you are, that it doesn't have to be you don't have to convince yourself and do anything. You just have to decide, and then be willing to move in that direction and let the things come up necessary to face to make it a sustainable thing.
It's amazing how many challenges I've had along the way, of like clients wanting me to work on Sunday, asking me to schedule. And I decided I really don't want to work Saturday or Sunday. But then there's a part of me that's scared, that is like, oh my God, but what if clients only want to work on Saturday or Sunday? And so then I hear this other voice, the Kevin Walton voice in me saying, you decide, you make your schedule, And so this has been so great, Kevin. I love you, and I love the version of me that you helped me to see. So I don't put you up on a pedestal anymore,
Exactly. That's a reflection of you. Like, and that, and actually you mentioned that earlier. It's exactly that. It's all we ever do is witness ourselves in everything. And
so important to talk about, Kevin.
Right? Like, when we see people living at a certain standard or certain capacity or certain quality that we would like to, it's not for us to marvel at them. It's for us to go, oh shit, that is possible. for
Yeah.
me. And like, it's really all it is. It's like, we all just show each other what's possible. And that's really all it comes down to. And so even when, like, and I've had conversations with women who are awesome friends of mine too, that early on when we were doing, you know, sessions and stuff, they felt this draw of like the attraction, thinking it meant we had to be together romantically. And it's being able to have the conversation of, well, it's really just, I represent the idea of that for you, but that's not for like where we are. And for them to realize that it's just the idea. And now they had clarity of, oh shit, so this is the type of partner I can be, and the type of partner I can have and work, you know, through. And now I can start painting that picture. And that's the other part of it. It's we're always going to be the ones that make things what they are for us, you know, like how to define it.
Yeah, so what I'm understanding is
So
we make up the narrative about the
Always.
meaning of what things are. So that's
Always.
really important, because if we've been creating a narrative that doesn't work, and so it's interesting because in one of my trainings, there was a man that was telling me, you know, we're twin flames. It's so funny you mentioned this.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was like, hell no, there's never going to be in this lifetime. I am not into, you know, I didn't say any of that, but I thought to myself, wow, you know, and then I even doubted myself, like maybe he's right. But then I was like, no, you know, I don't feel that. And so that kind of makes me wonder too, with who this partner is going to be for me in the future, because I'm such a loving person. And so what I'm understanding is we really are deciding who to fall in love with. We're deciding, it's a decision, rather than like in the romance novels, you're like, oh my God, I saw him across the room and we have to get married.
I was captive. There was nothing I could do. I was a prisoner to love. Like, yeah. Like,
well, like the Disney movies that I've seen many times in many years in my early childhood, birth to 7 years old, that's when we get programmed. I just kind of assumed that your prince like saves you and you're powerless, and then you get married. You know, you're just like from one. And it's kind of, I know somebody wrote a book about this, like the Disney Cinderella something.
Oh yeah.
But I really did believe that. I really made I literally married my prince in high school. You know, I married the person that was my high school sweetheart, who to me was like God. And I was with him for 20 years. And I feel like I went into this subconscious, unconscious program. So in a way, I feel like I'm nervous to trust myself in the future, that I really want to get to know the person. But what you're saying is really, you're deciding who that person's going to be. And I guess when two people decide they're going to be with each other, that's what happens, right? It's
exactly.
not.
I mean, it's really, that's what it comes down to, because you're going to feel connections and draws with countless people in your lives, some insanely intense. The question is, and they're for various reasons, very specific reasons, but various reasons why we'll feel those connections with different people. It still will come down to our choice to act on it. And so, and that's the thing when people are together in a relationship, it's when you realize this is where you're choosing to be, then you get to look at it like, is this actually where I want to be? And if so, am I willing to dedicate the necessary time and attention to nurture it? You know, am I going to make sure that I nurture myself so I can really contribute the most of myself to it, if this matters to me? And that's really what it comes down to, because people can talk about all day about soul contracts and how we're intertwined and soulmates and twin flames. And really, there's still a multitude of people that fit that bill. It's not one human that fits the bill. What's up?
Sometimes I feel that's all an escape. Like when somebody says, yeah, you know, we're twin flames, I'm twin flames with him. And in my mind, I'm like, I feel like I've been twin flames with everybody, you know, because when I connect with people, it's a deep, I don't do the superficial thing. Right. And so like, I'm a very deep person. And so sometimes I'm like, what if we just never spoke about that? What if we could just be with somebody in the present moment and what's alive in me?
And that's what it's really about. It's exactly that. It is being present with where you are, right? Which is being fully engaged, right? To be present, fully engaged in the moment.
Fully engaged in the moment.
Fully engaged. And when you're present, that's all that matters. It's here I am with you in this experience, and together we are exploring in this. And am I clear on who I am and what I stand for in this space, so that I'm navigating it and contributing to it authentically? And if I'm not clear, then I must take the time to get clear, to then know, you know, what to contribute and build. And that's the key too, is because everyone involved in every form of relationship is 100% responsible for the quality of that relationship, period. You know, it's like everyone has their choices they're making. And now that we're continuing to evolve as a species, where we're growing in that greater self-awareness, we are now realizing just how much, say we actually have over our lives and the power that we are to do it. But it does take
a lot
that
of
ownership
deliberate
itself. Yeah, the deliberateness is everything, and it's
reflection
very
of what you really want. So
right.
people out there, do you know what you truly feel you wish to create? That's a
Mm-hmm.
massive one, because when you're creating, you have to be in charge. And so many of us, I feel, are not used to being in charge. A lot of women, it's like, I work with them, and even that question, what would you like to create? It's almost like, I have to do something, like, can't you just tell me what to do? And so that's the fascinating part is, ladies and gentlemen, you matter. Everything that you desire, you can have, as far as, so much more is possible. But we really aren't, I feel that's the key question is, what do I wish to create?
Mm-hmm.
What would I like to feel more in my,
exactly.
my life? How would I like to feel more in my life?
Yep.
And so it's just an opening to a conversation. And I'm sure that this is massively covered in the masculine and feminine series, the sacred embodiment, right? Can you share about your programs right now that people can get in touch with you, aside from the awesome one-on-one coaching that I love?
For sure. I appreciate that. So Creatorhood, so there's an overall practice of Creatorhood, right? Which is the art of living from truth. And I've been writing up this whole doctrinage for it in this thing that's called the memory activation. From that, I've created the course that's released publicly, which is 3 different phases and it's called Creatorhood Initiate Training. So there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 is 8 weeks. Phase 2 is 6 weeks. Phase 3 is 4 weeks. And the time gets a little bit longer because of the depth of where we go in. So the hours are 3-hour classes each week for the 8 weeks, 4-hour classes each week for the 6 weeks, and then 5-hour classes for the 4 weeks, and dedicated to really knowing how to embody this work. And it covers everything from, emotions, consciousness, the mind, relationships, energy, mastery and command and surrender, all of those, the facets of structure of existence, right? How we keep in contact. Then once people go through all 3 phases, you have the opportunity to do the leadership training, which is a 6-month program of if you want to just embody it in a greater capacity, or if you want to know how to start training and facilitating, the work.
Right here, sign me up.
Legit. So there's that. And at some point, we're going to create an automated online version of it so that people who have the membership to Light Beings can, that'll be a monthly membership that we're developing right now. They'll have access to just study it at their own pace. It'll be there as long as they have the membership and access.
It really is lifetime study. It is lifetime.
Oh yeah, this is a pathway. This is life.
If anybody's a teacher and you work with teenagers, middle school kids, anyone who has a coach, anyone who's a parent, I really feel this is everyone. I wish we could bring this to the White House, honestly. Everyone benefits from Creatorhood. It encompasses everything. And I am sold. This is why I took Kevin's class, the second Creatorhood iteration, and anything that I can continue to develop in my frontal cortex here. And it's changed my life. And so I am a leader. You know what I'm saying? Yep, and I can refine my leadership skills. And so I love how you have taken this, and really, I'm just excited. So people, if you're feeling the calling as I am to just serve in a higher capacity yourself, really, this is about really up-leveling your own life and really creating that life that you really, really can. You decide. Please reach out to Kevin and join the Light Beings. Sign up for his classes and subscribe to his YouTube channel. I'm going to have all your links down below. And is there any one tip for love? Just one tip? Anything at the end that you want to share, because we're closing here.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, let's see, what would be the one I want to land the most? What comes alive right now for this is love is always flowing from the inside out. Right? You don't ever get love and you don't give love. You extend and expand in the connection of it. So when you're experiencing life with someone that you feel that you love so much, you love it, it's amazing, that love is yours. And they reflect and are a symbolic representation of the love you now feel. right? But that love can be there whether they're there or not. And so it is a beautiful gift to choose to experience that love and connection with another. It's just knowing that that love is actually flowing from the inside out. And that's the space that reminds you you're still a sovereign being connected to everything, whole on your own. And then you just magnify the nature of that experience with a partner. So love is always flowing from the inside out. It never shows up in the opposite direction. So even if people feel like they're not as loving themselves, but there's people in their lives that are showing them love, those people are reflections of the aspects somewhere in there that's like, and there's still parts of you that love you, whether you know it or not. And then there's other people that show up with the judgment, and it's like, and then there's parts of you that judge the shit out of yourself, and that's what I'm doing here. And so being able to look at
It's all from a place of love.
Still, yeah, it's still in there, asking to come forward. So it's always going to flow from the inside out. So I'd say I would leave off.
This is where the breathing, breathing is fundamental in the work that I do and you do, that we do. And so I feel that the more we breathe in oxygen and expand the ability to breathe in life force energy is an expression of expanding the love that we are, that we've always been.
Yeah.
So let's remember that, and it's interesting because when I hug people, I breathe deeply. I remember, or when I think about my daughter, or I go hug my daughter, I'm like, I associate love with breath, expansion.
Absolutely.
And this is what you're saying. Love is, it is expansion. It's constantly.
Exactly.
So awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
My absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Hey. Comment down below, everyone. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and let us subscribe to Kevin's. I'm going to put his Kevin subscribe little button on the top corner. And let us know what you think about love after this interview. What were your revelations? I want to hear it. Okay. And just thanks, Kevin. I'll see you in Creatorhood.
I'll see you then. Thank you for having me. Take care, everybody.